I've been trying to spend time over the last few days thinking about why this has been so impactful for so many. Um, Two reasons come to mind. The first is personal. Very young man, of course, taken too early, and by all accounts, a great husband and a great father. I'm blessed to have a 1-year-old child at home. So the idea of having that ripped away from someone is just heart-wrenching. The second, I think, is far more sort of symbolic, I'd say. Um, Sean, you made a point like this last week, where for many folks on the right, they have been unable to share their opinions for the better part of the last 10 to 12 years. I'm 33 years old. I have fairly centrist views. Uh, I can tell you, Dan, from experience, that as a college student in a liberal arts college in Pennsylvania, as an employee within the entertainment industry in California, I am able to share my left of center views. I'm unable to share my right of center views without being punished. For many of these young folks who followed Charlie, he wasn't just an influencer, right? I think for them, he was a singular example of someone being able to share opinions right of center in their space. He was, I think, a symbol of free speech to them. And so when they watched him get gunned down, really for sharing views that many of them also share, I think that was particularly painful for them. Uh, what I think is sort of more holistic, though, is when terrible things like that happen. Many of us can justify or move past it by saying something like, it was one terrible, evil person doing a terrible, evil thing. And then my question is, was it? There's a quote from Douglas Murray, a British journalist and author and political commentator. And in the aftermath of the atrocities of October 7th, he said, there are moments, and forgive me for paraphrasing, but there are moments in history where a flare goes up and you could see where everyone stands. And after Charlie passed and after he was killed, I think many folks did what all of us did. We went into our group chats, we went online to see people's reactions, we went on TV. We saw known people like Stephen King and Ilhan Omar and Matthew Dowd justifying this in a way. We saw people on TikTok dancing and celebrating it. We saw friends of ours making light and laughing about it. And for many of these people, they saw themselves in this and they said, well, if Charlie's death can be justified because he had different political opinions, mine can too, because maybe I agree with him on some things. And I think that is why it is hitting home for so many people. So I'd like to just end this with an appeal to those on the left, those in the center, to not just condemn the murderer, but condemn anyone celebrating or justifying or trivializing this. Because if you don't make that, for two reasons. One, to reach out to people on your left wing, on the fringes, and bring them back to some normalcy and make it clear to them that it's not okay to celebrate this. It's not okay to justify it. And make it clear to them, I mean this, the next time they utter the word fascist, they should be looking in a mirror. They need to hear it from you because they won't hear it from anyone right of center. But more importantly, to make that distinction to those on the right, make the distinction that you don't believe in justifying violence against people you disagree with. Because if you don't make that distinction, it won't be made for you. And you will have millions, Mark, you always mention millions or tens of millions of people who don't make that distinction. And that is the worst outcome out of this for our country. The best outcome from this, our country, is that it brings folks together and follow in Charlie's footsteps of dialogue first and peace, love, and understanding. So with that said, I plead that you make your stance clear and you stand up for more morality and you do so loudly and clearly as soon as possible and as loudly as possible. Thank
Dylan,
you.
beautiful. Thank you. You do speak for tens of millions. There's a story in the Free Beacon we're going to tell you about in a minute about alleged aspects of the investigation that are quite significant. We'll get to it when we have the headline ready for you, and we'll put the link in the chat. Dan, response to Dylan, and then Sean.
First off, Dylan, thanks for raising your hand. And I think you spoke very well for how you feel. I think two things about the left that I think are the case and are sad. I think one, the left still 12 years later does not hear MAGA. They just cannot hear what they have to say. And it pains me to say it, they don't respect MAGA. Like, they still don't understand that people voted the way they did and why. You know, the average person on the left still thinks the Trump fever is going to break, right? They think that it's just an infection. This is not normal. and it's going to end at some point. Or even when Trump leaves office, it's going to end. And like we're going to go back to, Bush versus Clinton type of, world. And I think I agree with you and have been clear that the party should not call Trump Hitler, should not say he's a fascist. One, it's bad politics. Two, it's just not true, right? It is simply not the case. And I think that whenever a bad thing happens, parties need to call out in real time. This is not acceptable. And I wish that one of our 2028ers would come out and be more explicit. Like I thought Bernie Sanders did a great job. But the next step is some of these leaders, I am wrong or was wrong to call Trump. Like we all need to lower the temperature. And I'm going to do my part by saying, like, we got to knock this crap off. Win in the marketplace of ideas, win at the ballot box. But don't say we have to destroy the other side and stop it because it's Hitler. Because I agree with the speaker, Johnson. Crazy people hear that and think I have to do my part.
Okay, Sean, before you jump in, put up 201, please. This is a daily, the Free Beacon story. And it reports that the FBI now has screenshots of, here's the headline, exclusive FBI investigating social media accounts that appeared to indicate foreknowledge of Kirk assassination. And I'll just read you a portion of the story. The posts, one of which referenced the date of Kirk's assassination, more than a month before it took place, were all deleted in the days following the killing. Several of the accounts appear to belong to transgender individuals, and at least one of them followed suspect Tyler Robinson's roommate, with whom Robinson was allegedly in a relationship on TikTok. So we talked about this at the top of the show. I'm telling you, this is where this is headed. There'll be a big national debate about all of the themes and questions here about accountability. I'm quite certain. Sean, respond to Dylan or question, please.
Again, just Dylan, thanks for coming on. Look, I agree with exactly what you're saying. I mean, this is not. I have spent my career at least trying to understand the other side, and I may not agree with you, but I subscribe to what Charlie has done, which is to have a dialogue, to at least understand it, to say, I get why you believe what you believe. I disagree with it. The difference between this current or what's going on, not just now, but it's been going on for decades, is that the left literally doesn't accept that there's a rational understanding of the right, of the MAGA movement, of why we believe what we believe. I had this comment, is ironically the Emmys were last night. I had a bunch of discussions in 2017 on the way home after the Emmys with some prominent left-wing Hollywood types who said, I wish we could get the dialogue going. And I think I relayed this story once before. And at the end of the discussion, he said, as long as you idiots would just give up your guns, we could probably make some progress. And I was like, just when that's the answer, is that we'll have a discussion with you as long as you agree with us. And I, on big issues like the issue of life and the Second Amendment, I don't agree with anyone on the left, but I mean, at least in some ways, sometimes I go, okay, let me understand why you could possibly think this. The folks on the left looked at the people on the right and say, we don't even think that you're normal. You should be canceled for even believing that. You shouldn't be allowed to have that view. That's very different. Let me just read you again, because this is important, from one of the studies that I noted. This quote, assassination culture incubated on social media and has migrated from the margins of public life into the mainstream. We found that nearly 1/3 of Americans surveyed, around half of those identifying as left of center, believe that the murder of certain public figures is at least somewhat justified. The figures are startling. 38% of respondents and 55% of people in the center left said assassinating President Trump would be at least somewhat justified. 31 respondents and 48% of those on the left said that the same about Musk. 40% of respondents and 58% of those in the center left deem it at least somewhat acceptable to destroy a Tesla dealership in protest. That is not normal. And the problem, and to your point, Dylan, is that no one at the higher end of the Democratic Party is saying, we don't agree with that. They're not tamping it down. That this has been existing in survey after survey for over years now, and no one on the left is saying, hey, this is a bubbling up and growing problem of how we choose to respond to our differences with the right. And we're going to say it's no. In fact, and this is why I said it, and it wasn't callous when I said it, they actually condone it, and in many cases egg it on.
I do want to just flag that
Go ahead.
during the Biden administration, when there were surveys about violence being acceptable, the right had very high numbers too, particularly after the 2020 election. Violence to stop what they said were fraud. So, I mean, this surveys have captured the mounting, we have to defeat the other side and all means are acceptable, and it's bonkers.
Dylan,
want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.